In this episode, we're going to learn how to sear scallops like a boss. Hello again, good to see you. Today we are going to cover the art of searing your meat, searing food. There are several things that need to be considered, and I'm going to run these down in order for you and then show you how super easy it is to sear and make your food look gorgeous. First thing to consider is the pan we're going to be using. If we are searing something more robust, like a steak or pork or lamb, etc., we really should be using ideally cast iron or instead stainless steel. Both conduct heat better and allows more sticky, lovely morsels left in the pan so that we can make killer sauces, etc. out of them. But we are doing scallops today. If you're doing something more delicate like scallops or salmon or sea bass or halibut, etc., then we are going to want to use a nonstick pan, which is what we got on the heat right now. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you have a thin layer of whatever the fat is you're using, and that fat goes into an already warmed pan. Mainly because you don't want the oil reaching its smoke point before the pan actually does. The next thing you want to do, and this is muy importante, is you want to make sure whatever product it is you're searing, in this case, scallops, are perfectly dry before you put it in. Let me get the oil in here. In this case, I'm using olive oil. Then what you want to do is make sure that your, in this case, scallops are perfectly dry. Now these were dry. I dried these before we started the camera, and they kind of sweat, I guess. And so I'm going to have to re-dry them again. Thank you for being patient here. Now I actually think I've got a little, no, I guess not. All right. Now this is the kind of look, this is the kind of sound you are hoping for. Oh, the way you can tell, by the way, hopefully you can see this, before it starts to smoke, which means the fat is starting to break down, you'll see a glimmer just like it's doing right now. That gives you a pretty good idea that it's ready. Oh, and you want that lovely sound. And it really doesn't take long. Now, you see the oil starting to pop up, so I just adjusted the temperature a bit. Another thing you want to remember is once you lay the meat on the pan, you don't want to mess with it. Just let it sit. Same thing with the scallops. Did I mention the product should be at room temperature? If I didn't, shame on me. So after about 2 minutes, I've flipped over to get the other side, and you can see it's got a nice little sear. Scallops are a little bit more challenging because if you get, my experience has taught me if you get too much of a sear on there, you generally overcook it. Oh God, that smell. Scallops, in my opinion, should be a little translucent in the center. Now the way you can, I've already tried this with the camera, it's not going to pick it up, but you can see the flesh on each side, and then there's a little translucent band in the middle. That's when you know it's done, regardless of how much sear you got on there. There's the bottom half of that. And here is what the end result looks like. Oh God, and they look perfect and they smell fantastic. So to review, you want to consider the type of pan. You want to make sure the pan is already heating up before you put the fat in. You want to consider which fat you're using and its smoke point. Also want to make sure that your product is at room temperature. And then just before you put it in, make sure you dry it. And last thing is, especially when we're talking about delicate food, don't overcook it. Well, that's about it. I hope it's been helpful. And as usual, thanks for watching.